In this next video series, you are going to have access to speakers from the Big Talk Academy. These speakers took my challenge of creating their video and sending it to me so I could feature them on the Big Talk on YouTube. They were not part of the virtual showcase. However, they are graduates of the Big Talk Academy, and I am super excited to share them with you here. Let's do this. Gayle Damiano, an incredible speaker and new mother, is going to talk about the power of being you.
I think you have a drinking problem. Who said that? Whose voice is that? My inner voice? Yeah. For at least 15 years, I had that voice on repeat in my head. I ignored it. But this voice was different. It's coming from a different place. It's my husband. He's telling me I have a drinking problem. The moment I heard that, it was like it was coming down some kind of a time warp tunnel and reverberating through time and space and hitting me all at once. It's like I was hearing it for the first time, but I know it was at least the third time that he had told me this. It was jarring. I felt like my cover was blown. I had been operating as a high-functioning alcoholic for so many years that I thought I had it all tucked away and neatly tied up with a bow. I was able to use my drinking as any kind of an excuse to hide any emotional scars, like most of us do who have any kind of a drinking problem. Plus, the daily dose of amphetamines I relied on for over a decade didn't really help either. But it seems all that, I was really kidding myself when I called myself high functioning and that I had it all neatly wrapped up and under control. Then I got into a competitive sales role and I thought, how convenient. I now have a legitimate reason to take prospects and clients to lunches, brunches, dinners, just drinks. I was encouraged to get them drunk. I was rewarded to do so. So I had a career motivation, help me conceal my own drinking, which was a huge bonus. But through all of that, believe it or not, that drinking was only exacerbating bigger problems underneath, like I said, emotional wounds and more. Mainly for me, it was my diagnosis of a hormonal and metabolic syndrome, a disorder called polycystic ovarian syndrome. It is the most prevalent hormonal disorder that you've never heard of. The most common among women of childbearing age and affects about 1 in every 10 women. So look around. Do you know 10 women? It comes with a laundry list of symptoms, and mine, for me, were mostly huge mood swings, acne, weight gain, anovulation, which means I wasn't ovulating, which leads to infertility. And I was diagnosed when I was 20. So instead of getting curious, though, how do I make myself feel better? How do I cure this? How do I try to heal this? Instead of doing any of that, I used all of these mood swings, hormonal issues, and I packaged them all up and I used it for fodder for my drinking. I said, I'm broken anyway, why bother? What I was doing was drowning myself in alcohol and drugs and self-pity. What I was not doing was listening to that inner voice. I was just drowning it out. We all have that voice, and we all tend to drown it out in varying degrees. That inner voice is really the highest version of ourselves. It's there to keep us on track and to relentlessly point us towards our true north. And I believe that the voice is acting like a compass. And when we are in alignment and we are feeling good, in the flow, we're confident, we're healthy, we feel like we can trust ourselves, and we're on the right path, and we're heading in the right direction, all these great things. And when we're not following the signals that this inner voice is sharing with us, we are letting anxiety reign and chaos reign. When I wasn't following my compass by hearing the cues from my intuition, like that repeating voice, you have a drinking problem. When I wasn't listening, I was raging forward blindly, ignoring all the signs. But the little voice doesn't quit. It keeps screaming louder and louder. Slow down, pay attention. The more I listened, the more I heard. The more I started to see that the rabbit hole on healing goes really deep. The more you look, the more you discover. And I discovered it wasn't just about me. It was my whole generational line. A series of mothers, one after the next, who abandoned their young children, leaving mental and emotional scars that would have to be dealt with in one way or another for decades and more. And I really began to see how alcoholics were everywhere in my family. It seemed everywhere I looked. There was beer, alcohol. No one sat me down and taught me to become an alcoholic or showed me this is how you get drunk necessarily, but children mimic what they see. And that's what I saw. So, honestly, it's been my journey to have, and I would have it no other way. And it's what I needed to find my voice and to hear my own intuition and to understand it. And most important thing is to learn to trust it. Now, I am a high-performance intuitive coach. I work with clients one-on-one. Among what I teach my clients are techniques on how to interrupt their trained thinking patterns so they can hear their inner voice. I work with them to locate how to decipher what it's saying and how to get back on track. Because when we suppress the urge to follow our heart, we build walls around it so nothing can get in, like that whisper of intuition. And nothing can get out either, like a cry for help. Cries for help come in many different ways. Here's what a cry for help might look like. In my experience, I remember writing in my journal many years ago that I felt like a robot. I felt like I was on automatic pilot. I was doing the same thing every day, getting up at 5 a.m., still drunk, shuffling to the train by 7 a.m., going from the suburbs into downtown Chicago, drunk the whole way, falling asleep, waking up usually at the last stop when someone would poke me or I'd hear, "Last stop, Union Station, everyone off the train." So my feet would somehow shuffle me off the train, still in a stupor, getting up outside into the sun, squinting with a pounding headache and alcohol still pouring out of my pores. And I scooted down the street, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, looking for a coffee shop, a Dunkin' Donuts, so I could start my day, feel halfway normal. It was almost as if I was having an out-of-body experience. And like my inner voice was a totally separate person looking at me in my life like, hello? Like two separate things. And those journal entries were cues from my inner voice for me to listen. This was not what I wanted. But could I actually stop drinking? Somehow deep down I knew, way back then, that if I did, I'd be able to regain control of my life and maybe even cure my PCOS. It was so deep down, It was a big maybe for me, but I tried anyway. I tried and wanted. But the doctors that I spoke to told me that PCOS was incurable, that likely I would just have to take medication or possibly undergo some kind of surgery. If I ever wanted to have children, it would go in vitro fertilization, surrogacy, or some other method. The day I was diagnosed, I remember the doctor sitting across from me, and he was telling me these options. I remember how he was so cold and matter of fact about my future and my body. And I just cringed and shuddered because inside I felt like he could never know what it's like to be me. He could never possibly understand what I'm going through. But I took his advice and I took his medications for the next 10 years or so. And that cringing and shuddering I felt initially was my signal from my inner voice to tell me that there was really more to this story. There was more. It was what he was saying was not my destiny. But again, I took his advice. And for 10 years longer, didn't feel any better. Certainly was not cured. And the years went by, and I plunged into books and seminars and alternative healing methods. I was curious enough, curiouser and curiouser it seemed, on the outside. My needle started moving in millimeters on my compass, slowly pointing me to who I truly wanted to be. And I started with a vision of myself, and it was this whole complete person, dressed really professionally, and I really liked it. It felt really a really good vision, but it felt very far away. Like, I don't know how I'm ever going to reach this. Each time I tried to get better, I failed. I would read a book and then go back to not doing things. I would take a seminar and then go back to what I was doing before. I would change my drink of choice from beer to light beer to vodka with no carbs. But then I just got drunker and I made dumber decisions. Hello. So each hangover was worse than the last. And this happens when you get older. It's another message. Quit drinking so much. I let it go until I was 39 years old. I had the worst hangover of my life. And by this point, I realized that very clearly that even though I had the intuition and the potential, I needed someone to guide me. I needed someone to kind of hold my hand and help me process what I was going through. And I made the choice to actively seek professional help. I found the way I went about it was a spiritual life coach, an herbalist, acupuncturist. And I really saw how important it was to have someone on my side, really holding my hand with my healing, number one, and help me hold myself accountable. And of course, my husband, huge, number one cheerleader on my team, not necessarily coaching me, but best hugs and best inspiration, huge support. So I began learning more about managing my energy. I finally started following all those years of training and reading books and going to seminars that, personal and professional development, all this stuff that I had been throwing time and energy into started to kind of click into place, and I started applying it. And my inner voice was speaking much clearer. There was still something in the way though. All this work I was doing, my needle was not fully reaching my true north. It was off to the side and I was not quite feeling my highest potential. It was still too far away. What was in the way was my drinking. Again, I was trying to heal myself and I wasn't willing to pull out that last plug. I'd come so far. But after feeling my husband say that to me and see how he is seeing me as an addict and how it's affecting our relationship with my poor decisions and my drunken bouts, and I chose that I could either be the cause of my depression or the cure. So I chose the cure. Through the work I was doing, I began slowly but surely slowing down my drinking. I went from drinking every day, in hiding or not, from drinking every day, I slowed down to 6 days a week, to 5, to 3, and then only a few drinks at a time, instead of drinking till I was blind or drinking till the bottle was empty, because that was my marker usually. So not allowing myself to get blindly drunk every day was a big deal. And it seemed like a miracle in itself. And my healer and I had a conversation. I was about to turn 40, and she said that I can do one of two things. I can celebrate my 40th birthday, one big shebang, party it up, do everything, whatever. And then when I get back to her office the next week, no more drinking. We'll get serious about healing. Or we could choose to be bold and right then and there decide I'm done drinking and let's go forward from that. There I am on her table in her office 2 weeks before my 40th birthday, and I hear myself say, let's just rip it off like a Band-Aid. What did I just say? What did I just commit to? I just committed to, I'm done drinking. I'm not 40 yet, I'm done drinking. On my calendar that year was a trip to Mexico with my husband, and I had never been before, and I was really looking forward to it. And most people, travelers, when they think of going to Mexico, they think cerveza and tequila and beaches, and yeah, that was all there. But here I was, turning 40 and avoiding every drop. At times, I'll be honest with you, I felt like I was out of control. I was holding on for dear life. My moods fluctuated wildly. My mind was racing, my palms were sweating, my body betrayed me with like jitters and nervous tics. I didn't really recognize myself, but I knew that I had to hold on. I persisted. And for the first time in over 20 years, I stayed sober for my birthday. Unbelievable. And more unbelievable maybe, I've not had a drop since. So I started listening to my inner voice with acute curiosity. Nothing was too small. I was listening so hard now. This challenge that I've overcome seemed so magical. So here I was, changing my diet, my attitude, my job. I kept my healer. I hired a coach. My body's reaction felt like nothing short of a miracle. For the first time in my entire life, I was able to normalize my body's natural rhythms. Yes, the first time in my entire life. And if I hadn't started listening to that voice, I would not be standing here right now, over 3.5 years sober. Probably still wouldn't be happily married. And I most definitely wouldn't have been able to naturally conceive and give birth to the beautiful baby boy I am delighted to call my son. And if we all start tuning in to that tiny voice, that internal compass, and we begin to follow the thread of what we hear, we just may create a society that learns to heal itself. And that is worth listening to.
Thank you for going on this journey with me and my speakers from the Big Talk Academy. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get access to my latest videos. I love when people write in the comments, and I will always respond to you. Big love.